Hello and welcome to Oak Island, Treasure, Curse, Truth. With this week's video, I wanted to look at the story behind one of the greatest legends of buried treasure, which is located on Oak Island. I received this idea from my brother, George, as the topic frequently comes up during our 2-hour drive to work each morning. He frequently watches the TV show The Curse of Oak Island on the History Channel, and I may have seen 2 episodes. During our discussions, I frequently question some of the strange coincidences found in the show, but can't say for sure what is factual or not. So with today's entry, I want to go on a journey with you and discover what the history of the island is, what is some of the legends claiming, and more importantly, try to figure out how some of the stories started, along with the search for facts as to if the tales are true. I'm going to attempt to provide as much information as I can, while at the same time trying not to focus on the TV show. So pack your bags and let's head to this legendary island. For years, the idea of finding buried pirate treasure has led many people in a search all over the world with the hopes of claiming it for their own. Many of these times the searches are fruitless, but there have been a few cases where the search has ended in success. That is, until it is later claimed by someone else entirely. Even with no treasure being found in most situations, the stories alone are enough to keep most out for the hunt. This exact situation is where we find the legend of Oak Island, with much speculation of finding wealth, but as of yet, all who have attempted to find it have received ruin and in some cases even death. Oak Island is a landmass that is made up of approximately 140 acres off the coast of Nova Scotia. Unlike the common thought of islands in the ocean, this one mainly consists of pine forests and, as you would guess, oak trees. The landmass was originally named Smith's Island after an early settler with the name Edward Smith, but yet in 1778 a cartographer by the name of Joseph Frederick Wallet de Beers renamed it to Gloucester Island. Not long after this, it became officially recognized as the locally known name of Oak Island due to the plentiful amount of oak trees found on it. As records state, the first known inhabitants were French fishermen who set up houses in the 1750s. From that time point until 1784, the British government frequently made attempts to lure people into settling on the island. As it stands today, 78% of the island is owned by the Oak Island Tours Incorporated, which is a conglomerate of 5 people, including the Lagina brothers from the Curse of Oak Island TV show. The other 22% is owned by other private individuals. In 1795, a 16-year-old by the name of Daniel McGinnis was walking around Oak Island when he observed a strange anomaly on the beach. He saw an odd depression in the ground, and above this stood a tree with its limbs cut off, which led to the idea that it had been used as a tool to lower something into the depression. In some tellings, an actual old block and tackle was still hanging on the tree. Excited by the find, he gathered 2 friends and they began to dig. 2 feet down, they found a flagstone layer. At 10 feet, 20 feet, and 30 feet, they also found oak logs spanning the hole. Unable to continue, they returned 8 years later with the Onslow Company to begin digging again, headed by a wealthy man by the name of Simeon Linz. During this attempt, the crew found the same previous log platforms every 10 feet, as well as layers of charcoal, putty, and coconut fibers. At 90 feet down, the crew found a stone with strange symbols carved into it. Many tried to deduce what it said, but all failed. In 1866, a Halifax University language professor claimed to have solved what the stone said, but many questioned this as he provided the solution at a time when more money was being needed to further investigate the area. Not only this, but many questioned how the stone would be oriented, as flipping it upside down would change the solution. The stone went missing shortly after its discovery, and all recordings of it are second-hand knowledge. Regardless of this, his interpretation of 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried is frequently stated as fact for the location. Back to the Onslow dig. At 98 feet, the crew hit what they thought was a wooden chest, but due to it getting dark, they left the excavation for the morning. When they returned, the hole was filled with water, and no matter how much they belted out, it kept refilling just as fast. They abandoned the first hole and decided to dig another right beside it. Once they hit 100 feet, they connected it with the original hole and it soon began to flood as well. This setback made Linz and Onslow Company decide to give up on the search. Apparently without realizing it, the Onslow Company had uncovered a 500-foot waterway that constantly allowed seawater to enter the hole. In 1849, the Truro Company was formed with the intent of uncovering the mystery of the supposed treasure hole. They attempted the same feats as the Onslow Company, only to encounter the same water issue, so it was quickly decided that they would use a drill with a bore on it to figure out what was down the pit, rather than trying to recover it. At 98 feet, the bore hit a spruce platform, then 4 inches of oak, and then 22 inches of what they claimed was metal pieces. After that was 8 inches of oak, another 22 inches of metal, 4 inches of oak, and finally another layer of spruce. It was assumed that the drill went through 2 casks filled with coins, and when the bore was retrieved, reports state 3 small gold chains were found on it. In an attempt to recover the treasure, the Truro Company tried to drill another hole parallel to the other one, and was met with the same fate as the Onslow Company. However, during this attempt, it was discovered that the designer of the pit had created an artificial beach, where a 145-foot drain system had been constructed under the sand, connecting the pit to the nearby Smith's Cove. This effectively made a passageway for the sea to flood the pit. In 1861, the Oak Island Association tried their hand at finding the treasure, but this time the endeavor would lead to disastrous results. While making another hole, the original pit filled with water, and the bottom of the original shaft collapsed, which led many to believe the treasure had fallen deeper as well. During this excavation, a boiler exploded and killed a man, which made him the first of 6 deaths on the property. After this event, and due to running out of money, the company abandoned their digs. In 1897, another group tried their hand at the now aptly named Money Pit, due to all the money people lost while trying to find the treasure. This company realized with their drilling that the previous collapse had put the pit in disarray, as many of the levels were now missing. However, between newly found blue clay layers, at between 151 and 160 feet, they encountered a cement vault that was 7 feet high with 7-inch thick walls. Inside they hit wood, then several inches of an unknown substance, followed by a layer of soft metal. After that layer was almost 3 feet of soft metal pieces. When the drill was pulled back up, a sheepskin parchment with the letters VI, UI, or WI were written on it. Many attempts up to this point were tried, but all failed. On March 26, 1897, tragedy would strike again, as a worker named Maynard Kaiser accidentally fell in the pit and died. In 1959, Bob Restall tried his hand at the pit, only to pass out and fall in the hole. His son and 2 workers tried to rescue him, but all fell to the same fate. Reports state they became overcome with carbon monoxide, possibly from a generator, and had drowned. This would bring the death total up to 6, and no one getting any closer to gaining the supposed riches to be had. According to legend, 7 people must die before the treasure will be revealed, but the idea behind this omen seems bound in old superstitions dealing with the number 7 and blood sacrifices. While researching this topic, it seems there are reports a 7th person did die a year ago from the TV show crew, but it wasn't on the island, so many people believe it doesn't count towards the curse. In 1976, a group known as Triton dug a borehole known as 10X, where a 237-foot-long steel tube was inserted into the ground near the money pit. They lowered a camera down and, according to reports, saw a severed hand floating in the water. Further down, they claimed to find 3 chests, and nearby was a human body. Divers attempted to investigate, but the water was too murky to see anything. The dig was later abandoned due to constant flooding. Recently, those claims were again investigated, and it was confirmed that no body or chests were at the bottom of the hole. Today, the crew from the TV show The Curse of Oak Island are busy trying their hand at uncovering the treasure. So with the history all out of the way, let's get to the supposed stories of treasure being buried on the island. For quite a few centuries, stories prevailed that pirates may have dropped their ill-gotten gains on the island, with 2 being the biggest suspects. Blackbeard, and Captain Kidd. The first issue with this idea is that unlike movies and book portrayals, it is deemed fairly uncommon for pirates to have actually buried their treasure. While many pirates had what they called hoards, only two were known to physically bury treasure like shown in the movies, Captain Kidd and Thomas Tew. As a side note, I have seen where hoards and buried treasure are not the same thing, but I couldn't make heads or tails out of how they were different, as they're both buried goods. Let's first look into the claims of Blackbeard. For the most part, these claims can be written off, as Blackbeard did once cryptically write that he had an underground hidden hoard where he would frequently hide his loot in a location, and I quote, "where none but Satan and myself can find it." This phrase alone has led many to believe that he was talking about the famed money pit located on Oak Island. The real issue comes in when the fact it is known that Blackbeard had no records of operating north of Delaware in his life as a pirate. Captain William Kidd is a little bit more of an interesting story, although his treasure is unlikely to be on Oak Island as well. Captain Kidd was a Scottish sailor, who some say started his sea career as an apprentice on a pirate ship, only later to change and hunt pirates at the request of the British government. During this period, he was tasked with hunting many targets, including the pirate by the name of Thomas Tew, who historically was known for burying treasure. Captain Kidd eventually reverted back to the pirate life, and on May 23, 1701, he was convicted of piracy and hung. Claims sprung up that a sailor in New England claimed to have been part of Kidd's crew, and that they buried treasure east of Boston, but exact details were never given. What is known is that William buried a percentage of his treasure on Gardiner's Island with the intent of using the information of the location as a bargaining tool in his trial. This plan failed, though it is said that the governor of New York had already seized the treasure. Outside of this, it is known that Captain Kidd spent very little time around Nova Scotia, and even with the amount of time he was there, it wouldn't have been long enough to construct the supposed money pit. Now, there is an idea that unnamed pirate captains may have used the area as almost a bank, where treasure was left only to be reclaimed later, although this story seems a bit unlikely as well, when figuring how the money pit was constructed, and that pirates weren't known for observing the honor system when it came to taking other people's unprotected wealth. Other reported treasures include Marie Antoinette's lost jewels, hidden manuscripts proving that Shakespeare didn't write his works, rather an author by the name of Francis Bacon did, and as frequently as synonymous with lost treasure, it is believed the Holy Grail or Ark of the Covenant is located on the island. Common culprits to burying the treasure involve the Knights Templar and the Freemasons, but those links are shaky at best. Many symbols have been found on the island that were thought to be Templar crosses, but were in fact found to be Portuguese versions of them. One of the most interesting theories revolving around the lost treasure is that it isn't in the money pit, but rather in a nearby swamp. Many artifacts have been found in the swamp, including the deck to a ship. This discovery has led many to believe that at one time the swamp was connected to the ocean, and the ship became dry docked. Many speculate that French army engineers constructed the money pit, along with its booby traps, in order to hide the contents of the treasury from Fort Louisbourg after its fall in the British 7 Years' War. One of the most supported and highly accepted theories is that the treasure was from Spanish sailors that had wrecked on the island. This idea is supported by Spanish coins being uncovered, but at the same time, pirates including Captain Kidd frequently made targets of Spanish ships, so it still could have been plundered loot. So at this point, what information do we have to prove or disprove the legends? There honestly isn't anything solid, but it does seem that at one time treasure may have been located in the money pit, but due to careless digging causing frequent collapses, it is more than likely lost. The most interesting story that is rarely told is about a former slave named Samuel Bell, who was freed on January 14, 1784, after serving in the British Army during the American Revolution. After the war, Samuel made his home in Nova Scotia, where eventually he purchased a small plot on Oak Island. After living there for a while, he suddenly was able to purchase more land totaling 100 acres, as well as buying the nearby Hook Island. Apparently he lived his life as a cabbage farmer, but interestingly enough became fairly wealthy. As you may assume, many hold the belief that Mr. Ball had found at least some of the treasure on the island, but never mentioned a word of it. I think this story is probably the most convincing solution as to where the treasure went, if it did in fact exist. Now I must say that I did exclude quite a bit of information, as this topic is lush with encounters and findings, but none add to the solution of what, if anything, is buried on the island. They rather just add more speculation. I also wanted to take this full circle and mention briefly that several ghosts are said to wander the island, including many spirits of pirates who are claimed to be protecting the treasure. So I would be extremely interested to know your thoughts on this legend, and to hear if you have any interesting theories. I originally started this video thinking there wasn't any truth to the supposed treasure, but now I'm not too sure. Also, as mentioned previously, please forgive me if I missed something, as the complete story behind this island would be a two-part video, and I really wasn't wanting to split this up. Before I end this video, I wanted to mention that recently our channel has taken a huge leap in viewership and subscriber numbers, and I couldn't be more happy or thankful for that. As of late, each video has been seeing over 3,000 views, which is up from the normal 1,000, and a few days ago we officially hit the 19,000 subscriber mark. I wanted to take this moment and thank you all for making this channel what it is, and look forward to our next milestone. I also wanted to thank Luke Butkiss for his pledge on my Patreon page. That page was set up due to requests from fans like you, and while I don't expect people to utilize it, I'm greatly appreciative of those who choose to do so. If you are new to my channel and haven't yet done so, please consider clicking that subscribe button if you enjoyed what you just saw. Normally at this point I also ask for you to give this video a thumbs up, but instead I'm asking that you share my videos with someone you may think might enjoy this type of content. Let's see how quickly we can hit that next milestone. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.